Hello and welcome to News Central Studio, reaching you live from Lagos, Nigeria. I am Joe Hansen, and here are the top stories at this hour. Presidential polls open in Benin Republic on Sunday. 87 inmates back in custody after Monday's jailbreak in Owerri, southeastern Nigeria. UN condemns latest violence in Sudan's West Darfur state. Get the details here shortly. We begin in Benin Republic, where presidential polls open on Sunday with incumbent Patrice Talon going in as favorite to win 5 more years. Talon, who previously vowed to serve only 1 term, faces 2 challengers, Alassane Samanu, who was a minister under Boni Yayi, and Corentin Kahui, a veteran politician. Talon, a multi-millionaire cotton magnate, says he needs another term to consolidate the gains of his first. He has defended the legal charges brought against his rivals as justified by their acts. Well, joining us live from Cotonou, the capital of Benin Republic, is News Central's Bernard Akide. How are you doing, Bernard? Good to have you join us.
Thank you. I'm doing very, very good. Thank you. How's Lagos?
Lagos is not bad. We're looking at a wonderful time here joining you to know what the update is. But let me start off first by asking you, Bernard, what's the atmosphere like as Beninois prepare for Sunday's polls?
Well, Benin Republic is quite a small, peaceful, West African country, coastal nation. Few people, the total population at most 14 million. And it's been normal. It's been business as usual. It's a regular Friday, except for the fact that, of course, they've had campaign teams, largest of them being the one of the incumbent president, talking about Patrice Talon, who's been going around the town. Basically, we were able to catch up with that particular campaign team. And I think that, the campaign have basically, disrupted in a certain way the regular lives of the people today, because clearly it was a frenzy. In French, they call it a caravan. That's a movement, basically. Over 20 cars, 2 open-ended trucks with people dancing and singing and playing music. A lot of Nigerian music, by the way, was being played there. So let's know that we're being recognized over here as well. And so, yeah, basically that's what day has been. There have been other contestants also taking their own campaign teams all around. Need I remind you that today is the last day of campaign before the election. The election itself, voting proper, is on Sunday. Yes, on Sunday. So elections have to cease 24 hours before voting, or rather campaign, I beg your pardon, has to cease 24 hours before voting. Hence, the heavy movement of campaign teams all around the country through Cotonou, the commercial capital, and of course through Porto Novo, the nation's capital.
All right, we learned that earlier on you had challenges getting accredited to cover the polls. You want to give us an update on that currently? What's happening?
All right, so I would say initially we thought there were challenges, but later we got to find out that it was for security reasons, as we were informed. And I'll give you the brief history leading to why this is happening. Now, we got to understand that President Patrice Talon initially extended his running days through a constitutional amendment, so to speak, or a legal amendment that extended his running days for about, 45 more days. And he said this was put in place so as to make certain things, in order before the election and for the next, after the next 5 years. Now, certain opponents were not happy about this, so there were light protests in certain parts of town. Those light protests led to some slight vandalism here and there. And because of that, security operatives and security presence had to be beefed up within town. As a matter of fact, in front of the Nigerian embassy when we arrived yesterday, we could see presence of armed police, which, as we were told, didn't used to be so. So because of that, now, it was decided that accreditation would not be given for security reasons until the morning of the election itself, talking about Sunday morning. So for that reason, we do not have accreditation just yet. We've been able to get to the embassy. We put down our names, our identification, every information that's been required of us And we certainly hope that by Sunday morning, we would have the regular accreditation that we require, which will enable us, go around for the election.
All right. As a leading voice for Africa, News Central is present. I mean, courtesy News Central, we have Bernard. We're talking to you now. I do understand as well that international media coverage is limited for this election. Can you shed more light on this?
I'll be honest with you. We didn't even get to see media coverage per se. As a matter of fact, we were only informed when we made inquiry. We were informed that there was some print media journalists who were around. We didn't get to meet any of them, but we requested to see, at least to get to meet anybody from electronic media, say TV, other stations. But we didn't get to see anyone. As a matter of fact, I think we were the only ones that that we could actually notice there. I'm waiting to see if we can actually meet up with any other. Whether foreign or local media presence that will be on ground between tomorrow morning and the day of the election, particularly. But I want to believe that there definitely will be some, because as yesterday we heard that some high-profile guests, which would include media and other personalities, have begun arriving the country via Cotonou here, the commercial capital.
Trusted Bernard, let me ask you one more question very quickly. Looking at the fact that African presidents are known to stay longer when it comes to a ruling. President Patrice Talon is seeking a second term in office. What is the mood like, especially from the people? Are they looking to support this second term, especially come on Sunday?
Well, my French is not so good, but I would attempt. In French, they would say comme ci, comme ça, which means like this, like that. So it's mixed feelings between or among the people rather. A lot of people actually are appreciative of the fact that President Patrice Talon has done quite a lot in the past 5 years, as they claim he has. But there still are those who are agreed with the fact that he is breaking the promise that he actually made. He said one term alone, which is 5 years. But now he's decided to go for another 5 years. And he says it's for sustainable development so that they can complete what they have begun. So I think on the other hand as well is the surprising fact that he picked a woman, that's talking about Mariam Talata, who is going to be his running mate. So of course we know that this is a time for African women to get up. We have the likes of female presidents here and there. We also have our very own Konjo Weala, who is in the World Bank. So there are those people who are sympathetic towards the fact that he has picked a woman. And I must also add here that if she and he win this ticket and become, the president and the vice president for the next 5 years, Mariam Talata will be the first female vice president of Republic of Benin, as they call it here. So while there are mixed feelings as to the fact that he has broken his promise and sought another term, there are still those who believe that maybe he does have good plans for the people of Benin Republic and for the country at large.
All right, at this juncture, I want to say thank you so much. Merci beaucoup, Bernard Ekede, for speaking with us.
Très bien, très bien.
Après. All right, moving on and still on election matters. Voting has ended in Djibouti with incumbent President Ismail Omar Guelleh seeking a fifth term. 73-year-old Guelleh is one of Africa's longest ruling leaders. He was picked to succeed his uncle Hassan Gouled Abtidon, who led the country to independence from France in 1977. Guelleh faces only one challenger, Zakaria Ismail Farah, while the rest of the opposition is boycotting the polls. We return to West Africa, where the Nigerian Correctional Service says 87 inmates have voluntarily returned after the facility was attacked on Monday in Owerri, the capital of southeastern state of Imo. Spokesperson for the service in Imo, James Madugba, said a comprehensive investigation into the incident has been ordered, adding that the facility, in collaboration with other security organizations, have commenced search and recovery operations to recapture the fleeing inmates. Madugba assured that the security of custodial centers in the country remains sacrosanct.
To add that efforts are still ongoing to ensure that the fleeing inmates are recaptured. So that is the true situation of things as at now. And I also want to say this, that most of the inmates came back on their own. I mean, willingly, they came back on their own. And I remember what the Honorable Minister said: if anyone comes back on his own without force or being recaptured, that the person should be given a soft landing where the person will not be charged to court again for. escaping, because escape from lawful custody is another offense. But if said they will continue to engage in the offenses they committed before coming to prison, that no other charges will be leveled against them. So I still use this opportunity to appeal to these fleeing inmates to use this opportunity to return back to the custodial center to serve their sentence and face their cases as the case may be. Thank you very much.
Well, the attack came a day after prison and the police headquarters in Imo State capital Owerri were attacked and over 1,800 inmates were freed. In the last 3 weeks, residents of Ajah, a neighborhood in the Lekki axis of Lagos State in Nigeria's southwest, have been living under tension and apprehension as violent clashes and cult activities in the area continue to rise. News Central correspondent Mary Chinda visited the area in the early hours of the day and she reports.
It is 6:15 a.m. in Ajah, a high-density neighborhood of Lekki Peninsula in Nigeria's southwestern state of Lagos. It is characterized by the usual hustle and bustle of Lagos. But for workers trying to get out of their duty post early, coming out earlier than this time is near impossible.
I can't understand why 6 o'clock in the morning, 5 o'clock in the morning, 5:30 in the morning, we're being harassed, we're being robbed. For the past 3 weeks, that has been the situation.
My girl was coming back from work. She got robbed at Ajah here, which they collected her bag and her phones and everything that was in it.
If you live around the Ajah Battery axis, where insecurity is now at its peak, among the skills you may acquire is not only to return home before dusk, but also to run for your life.
Tuesday, there was a fight at Ajah, and I noticed that everywhere was empty because we didn't know. After close from work, we didn't know what was happening. So when we were coming, the road was empty, unlike Ajah, that is usually very busy. So I don't know if it's between Ajah or Ajah that they were fighting that day. We realized everybody was running. We don't even know what we were running for, but we're just running.
So our life is in the hand of God.
Chijoke Nwosu is a commercial bus driver who makes a living plying this route. He says life has taken a different turn.
So all those few weeks they are fighting, I refuse to stop passenger at Ajah. When I'm coming from Lakwe, I will tell any passenger that is dropping at Ajah, I'm not dropping there.
So we head to the palace of the clan head, seeking answers to the cause of this insecurity and how it's been dealt with. We are only able to get a member of the Council of Chiefs over the phone.
They are court guys that are fighting themselves on supremacy. Because most of these court boys, you see a mechanic and a court rider being a court member. All these useless people there, they are part-person people joining court. For what purpose?
The intermittent police patrols in Ajah have so far proven ineffective against the deadly crime wave.
We know we have some cases of cult-related activities where some of these boys will be attacking one another, particularly AA members and black cats, the AA, be coming in. And majorly they come in through Azizas, Ogun to come and foment trouble in this place. Many of them don't reside in this part, they don't reside in Lagos State. They come in to strike and go. But we have been picking them, we have been arresting them and charging them to court. We have arrested a large number of them in this area.
The Ajah Badere area, with a population of over 20,000 persons, may continue to live in fear if nothing is done to arrest the rising insecurity. Mary Chinda for News Central.
In Central Africa, at least 40 people have been burned alive after a bus carrying flammable cargo crashed and burst into flames in Democratic Republic of Congo's province of Kwilu, east of the capital Kinshasa. The region's governor, Willie Itshonda, told local media that 9 out of 31 survivors were seriously injured. Videos shared on social media showed the vehicle on its side, its undercarriage burning and fruit spilled across the road. We now move to East Africa, where the United Nations Refugee Agency has proposed to the Kenyan government a set of measures aimed at identifying solutions for refugees living in the Dadaab and Kakuma refugee camps. These include enhanced voluntary repatriation in safety and dignity, while taking into account the movement restrictions related to the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic. The UN also suggests resettlement to third countries for a small number of refugees who are not able to return home and face protection risk. UNHCR also proposes acceleration of the issuing of national ID cards to over 11,000 Kenyans who have previously been identified as registered in the refugee database. In neighboring Sudan, the governor of West Darfur State says the number of people now known to have died during several days of clashes has risen to 132. Mohammed Abdallah Dauma criticized the government's response, saying a promise of additional troops to help protect civilians had not been fulfilled. Members of the Masalit and Arab communities have fought since Saturday in and around the state capital, El Geneina, using guns and heavy weaponry. Late last year, UN peacekeepers withdrew from Darfur. People there have called for notorious militias in Darfur to be disarmed. In the meantime, the Office of the United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights has condemned the latest bout of violence on West Darfur, which started on April the 3rd. The violence erupted in El Geneina town when unknown assailants shot at a group of men from the Masalit tribe, killing 2 and injuring 1. In response, armed elements from Masalit and Arab tribes mobilized, leading to clashes between them. Speaking on the clashes, OHCHR spokesperson Marta Hurtado said 87 people have been killed, while more than 191 have been injured and thousands have fled their homes. She also condemned the slow progress in ensuring accountability for the clashes, despite repeated calls by victims and their families.
Similar to previous situations of violence in Al Geneina, the authorities failed to stop the clashes despite a robust security force present in the town. We urge the authority to fully uphold the role of protection of the population without discrimination. In this regard, we call on the government of Sudan to accelerate the implementation of the National Plan for the Protection of Civilians. All the tribes responsible for violence in Darfur must be disarmed, and the state must be able to maintain order and ensure the rule of law, including by preventing armed civilians from taking the law into their own hands. We urge the government to ensure prompt, transparent, and effective follow-up to these investigations. All those responsible for human rights abuses must be held accountable. Grievances from both sides must be tackled after decades-long ethnic disputes stoked by the.
Coming up on the news, updates on the coronavirus as Nigeria records no new COVID-19 related deaths since April the 1st. Get the details shortly. Stay with us. It has now been 8 days since the last COVID-19 related death was recorded by the Nigeria Center for Disease Control, after the latest update from the health agency showed the number of fatalities stands at 2,058 since April the 1st. NCDC also added that daily new cases have also continued to follow a downward trajectory from an all-time high of 2,314 on January 22nd. The agency said 83 new cases were recorded, taking the total number of infections in the country to 163,581. It said the new COVID-19 cases were recorded in 14 states and the Federal Capital Territory. Egypt has agreed with China's Sinovac Biotech Limited to manufacture its COVID-19 vaccine domestically and could produce up to 80 million doses a year. The Health Ministry said the agreement could provide a major boost to vaccination efforts in Egypt, which has a population of 100 million and has thus far received just 1.5 million doses. A statement from the ministry said one production facility can produce 20 million doses annually, while another could produce 60 million. Egypt's cabinet and presidency approved a joint manufacturing agreement to make the vaccines that will be distributed in Egypt and to other African countries. Leaders of South African Development Community have concluded their meeting in Mozambican capital of Maputo to discuss the terrorist attacks that have taken place in the coastal town of Palma in the Cape Delgado district. 6 presidents from the Southern African Development Community held a double Troika summit yesterday, where they had emergency talks on the attacks that have left dozens of people dead and thousands displaced. The violence escalated on March 24, close to the site of a multi-billion-dollar gas project. Yesterday, the summit affirmed that such heinous attacks cannot be allowed to continue without a proportionate regional response. Joining me for more on this, all the way from Johannesburg, is editor Candice Bailey. Thank you so much for joining us here today on News Central Now.
Evening, Joe.
What is the latest to come out of the summit?
Well, Joe, a communique was issued late yesterday afternoon, once the summit had ended. There are 2 parts that we know of. The first is that SADC bloc has issued, they've deployed a technical team to Mozambique. We don't know much about the team in terms of its compilation or its actual mandate, but we do know that there will be an extraordinary meeting of the ministers in that organ on politics, defense, and security cooperation. And they will then report back to the summit on the 29th of April. So we do know that SADC has reconfirmed its commitment to restoring peace and security in the area.
All right. Can you walk us through what actually happened over the last 2 days?
So, Joe, on Wednesday, there were some ministerial meetings that took place. We know that there were 3 South African ministers that went to Mozambique and had the first set of meetings. Yesterday, there were 2 sets of meetings. The first was the Troika by the organ on politics, defense, and security operation, and that was led by Botswana's President Masisi. President Ramaphosa from South Africa was in that meeting as well as President Mnangagwa from Zimbabwe. And once they then had their meeting, the double Troika happened, where they then included the President Nyusi from Mozambique, as well as President Chakwera from Malawi and President Hassan from Tanzania.
All right. Candice, let me ask as well, what was some of the sentiments of the summit?
There's definitely a commitment, Joe, to restore peace and security in the area. We do know that details has been scant on the type of support that SADC is going to be providing the country in terms of what they're going to be offering. But based on the closing remarks from the chairperson of SADC, who's President Nyusi from Mozambique, we do know that there is going to be some form of support. They've spoken of providing border security from other SADC countries, provision of human and material resources, as well as humanitarian relief. The detail, we are waiting, the devil will be in the detail, so we are waiting for more of that. But we do know that there is a commitment to helping Mozambique. Mozambique has displayed a need for sovereignty in this time, but I think that there is a push from the SADC region for regional support.
All right, Candice, what do we know about the current situation in Palma now?
We know that there have been fresh attacks in the last 10 days. That was concerning. There is some concern from the international aid groupings that are around. We do know that there's been medical teams have been sent through to look at some of the bodies of people that have been killed and injured in the past 10 days, and we do know that there's a lot of there are talks that it's a bit of a quiet town at the moment. There's lots of fear, if I could put it that way.
Wow, that's interesting. Thank you so much, Candice. You've always been a great sport. Sabuwana.
Sabona. Thank you, Joe. Keep well.
All right, then. Moving on with the news. Meanwhile, thousands of Mozambicans are struggling with trauma and devastating loss after continued attacks in Cabo Delgado province. This is according to the United Nations Refugee Agency. Civilians have been arriving in Pemba, Nangandi, Mueda and Montepuez by foot, road and boat since 24th of March in the aftermath of the attack on Palma.
Traumatized. These are people that are exhausted. They arrived by many means. Most of them arrived in a boat a few days ago, but some also arrived walking. The sentiment is transversal to everyone I've been speaking with. They are highly traumatized by what they have seen, by what they have experienced, seeing their families, their friends being killed, seeing their houses being completely destroyed.
With the rainy season approaching in Nigeria, the federal government has started mapping out flood-prone communities. The country's National Emergency Management Agency and other relief responder agencies say this is necessary to reduce the impact of the floods on poor and vulnerable Nigerians.
With several Nigerian states and communities hit by floods in 2020, many residents were left displaced and in dire need of aid. While experts blamed the impact of the floods on a slow response mechanism, response agencies are not taking lightly the 2021 seasonal rainfall prediction. At this technical workshop on disaster risk management in the nation's capital, Abuja, aid experts say adequate preparation for the rains is necessary as it will help save lives and property.
This gathering has become more relevant considering our past experiences of unprecedented flood and other disasters that had affected several states of Nigeria and wreaked havoc on communities and drastically affected our collective disaster resilience.
We're looking at the experience of 2020 and beyond in terms of management, and we are looking also at the predictions of 2021. When you combine those of the experience of 2020 and you also look at the predictions of 2021 together, then a plan for the response becomes more practical.
While vulnerable communities were mapped and given to aid agencies, the idea is to reduce the impact of the oncoming floods on Nigerians.
All stakeholders are assigned their tasks, whereby they are experts in to go and carry on, so that at the end of the day, this year's rain season will not actually be devastating like previous ones.
Those present at the workshop say they are positive a joint effort by several aid agencies will reduce the impact of the floods.
It is our hope that this laudable support will be sustained with the understanding that disaster management is always multi-jurisdictional, multidisciplinary, and by implication a multi-stakeholder endeavor. Together, we can achieve a lot more.
Many Nigerians will be hoping that a proactive approach.
When the news returns, flags at Buckingham Palace are flying at half-mast following the death of the Duke of Edinburgh, Prince Philip, husband of the Queen of England. Get the details after the break. Welcome back. Prince Philip, Queen Elizabeth II's husband, has died aged 99. In a statement shortly after midday, Buckingham Palace said the prince passed away in his sleep at Windsor Castle. The flag at Buckingham Palace was lowered to half-mast and a notice was posted on the gates following the announcement of the Duke's death. People also placed flowers outside the palace while crowds began to gather at Windsor Castle. The Duke, who was the longest-serving consort in British history, had returned to Windsor Castle on the 16th of March after spending a month in hospital. UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson said the prince inspired the lives of countless young people.
Prince Philip earned the affection of generations here in the United Kingdom, across the Commonwealth and around the world. He was the longest-serving consort in history, one of the last surviving people in this country to have served in the Second World War, at Cape Matapan, where he was mentioned in dispatches for bravery, and in the invasion of Sicily, where he saved his ship by his quick thinking. And from that conflict, he took an ethic of service that he applied throughout the unprecedented changes of the post-war era. Like the expert carriage driver that he was, he helped to steer the royal family and the monarchy so that it remains an institution indisputably vital to the balance and happiness of our national life. He was an environmentalist and a champion of the natural world, long before it was fashionable. With his Duke of Edinburgh award scheme, he shaped and inspired the lives of countless young people, and at literally tens of thousands of events, he fostered their hopes and encouraged their ambitions.
The World Health Organization has warned that a critical shortage of vaccines has left some countries unable to start their COVID-19 vaccination campaigns. WHO spokesperson Dr. Margaret Harris told journalists in Geneva, Switzerland, saying vaccination is beginning to show good effects in countries that have been able to start their vaccination programs. Dr. Harris insisted that everyone needs to be vaccinated amid efforts to quadruple the global production of vaccines from the current output of around 5 billion. She explained that preliminary results from countries such as the United Kingdom have shown that vaccination programs have averted very large numbers of deaths.
Seeming to think that vaccination will stop transmission, that is not the case. We need to bring down the transmission while giving the vaccination the chance to stop the severe disease and the severe deaths. The good news is, the severe disease and the deaths, the good news is we are now seeing preliminary results from countries like the United Kingdom that indeed their vaccination programs have averted very large numbers of deaths. But we have to do it all. We have to do all the public health social measures. We have to get better at the quarantine, better at the self-isolation, better at the tracking, tracing, and really, really do it everywhere. Brazil has been suffering terrible losses. But the message is, again, the public health social measures work. You have to apply them. Now, it is very difficult for people who are living in crowded conditions, so they need the support. They need the support at every level to be able to avoid the crowding, avoid the close contact. Everyone who is potentially infected needs to be identified so that they can be removed from the healthy.
In the meantime, the World Health Organization has called on countries to support the COVAX facility, adding that bilateral arrangements to deliver COVID-19 vaccines run the risk of fanning the flames of vaccine inequity. WHO Director General Dr. Tedros Ghebreyesus told reporters in Geneva, Switzerland, that this is a time for partnership, not patronage. Dr. Ghebreyesus noted that WHO had issued a call for vaccinations to begin in all countries within the first 100 days of the year. He stressed that COVAX works, adding that it is a strong mechanism that can distribute vaccines faster and more efficiently than any other mechanism.
There remains a shocking imbalance in the global distribution of vaccines. More than 700 million vaccine doses have been administered globally, but over 87% have gone to high-income or upper-middle-income countries, while low-income countries have received just 0.2%. On average, in high-income countries, almost 1 in 4 people has received a vaccine. In low-income countries, it's 1 in more than 500. Let me repeat that. 1 in 4 versus 1 in 500. COVAX works. It's a strong mechanism that can distribute vaccines faster and more efficiently than any other mechanism. The problem is not getting vaccines out of COVAX. The problem is getting them in. We understand that some countries and companies plan to do their own bilateral vaccine donations, bypassing COVAX for their own political or commercial reasons. These bilateral arrangements run the risk of fanning the flames of vaccine inequity. This is a time for partnership, not patronage.
The world is itching to return to normal, but the question is how much of what was that will be. An innovative digital passport developed by the African Union through its lead health agency, the Africa Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, and private sector technical partners could be the magic key to unlock air transport. And air travelers across Africa can now enjoy faster clearances at airports. Flight delays and long queues at airports are gradually becoming a thing of the past for passengers boarding airlines on the continent. News Central's business desk has more.
Let's further explain how this new system will work. Passengers in Africa are now finding it more convenient traveling inside and outside their countries with the AU's innovation digital passport called Trusted Travel Pass. It will facilitate secure and easily verify compliance with COVID-19 tests or vaccine travel requirements to the destination of choice. For international travel, the TT code will be used as evidence of the test to generate a travel code, TC, for international travel, as both TT code and TC are now Africa-invented standard travel clearance requirements for international travel in the current health emergency.
If it's specifically Nigeria, I think we should just go ahead and begin to enlighten people to take the vaccine, because the vaccine is the future. International travel will depend on that vaccine. And also, you remember that if you know now that there's a passport coming up under the vaccine passport issue, and with that you can read the international travel. For now, the international travel is a bit difficult. Countries are still locking up, especially in Europe. They're locking up. They're putting those protocols and barriers in place. Consider that they are already having the second and third wave, despite having the vaccination in place.
At present, Ethiopian Airlines, Kenya Airways, and ASKI Airlines have confirmed their intention to use the digital passport. Ethiopian Airlines alone serves 40 African countries. Kenya Airways, 37 countries in the continent, while ASKI Airlines flies across 25 African cities. With these airlines, a huge chunk of Africa's air traffic will use the digital passport and further ensure Africa is open for business.
Nigeria's state-owned oil company will collaborate with other stakeholders to establish a gas power plant in the Maiduguri, the capital of the northeastern state of Borno. Group Managing Director of the NNPC, Mele Kyari, said the plant is to address the problem of power supply in the state. The GMD said he is confident all stakeholders involved, including the gas supplier and power distribution company, would deliver. He added that they also count on the support of the state government. The Central Bank of Kenya has collected 20.1 billion Kenyan shillings from investors who put in bids at the weekly Treasury bills auction on 8th April 2021. This is out of the billion that was offered as investors submitted bids worth 20.3 billion shillings, indicating a performance rate of 84.78%. The 364-day Treasury bills was the most attractive, with investors submitting bids worth 14.6 billion shillings out of the 10 billion shillings on offer, a performance rate of 146.27%. The 182 days Treasury bills had a performance rate of 25.59% after investors submitted bids worth 2.6 billion shillings out of the 10 billion shillings on offer. And moving on to South Africa, the South African rand retreated from a 6-week peak on Friday, taking a breather after dovish signals from the U.S. Federal Reserve spurred a rally in riskier assets. A South African currency traded at 14 Rand 58 cents against the dollar. This is 0.38% weaker than its previous close. It had rallied to 14 Rand 44 cents on Thursday, its strongest since February 24. Most emerging market currencies rose this week on weakness in the dollar and U.S. Treasury yields, especially after minutes from the Fed's latest meeting showed that the bank was in no hurry to tighten monetary policy. Well, still ahead in the news, sports and entertainment will be coming up next. Stay with us.
And now tracking sports story at this time, I am Onyechi Obaro. We begin with swimming, where South Africa's Chad Lokwoy qualified for the Tokyo Olympics, winning the men's 200 meters butterfly on day 2 of the country's National Aquatic Championships. Chad Lokwoy, South Africa's most decorated Olympian of all time, stopped the clock in an impressive 1 minute 55.88 seconds, with Ethan Dupree taking second place. Both Lokwoy, 28, and the 17-year-old Dupree dipped under the qualifying time ahead of the Olympic Games to be held in July and August this year after being postponed due to COVID-19 pandemic. Chad Lokwoy also won the men's 50 meters butterfly on day 1 of the championships. The Kenyan Football Federation President Nick Mwendwa has announced that all players in the top league will be vaccinated in what is the latest signal of a return of league football action. The inoculation exercise is targeting 700 players and match officials will be done at the Moi International Sports Centre, Kasarani, as part of the concerted efforts from the Federation to ensure players are protected against contracting COVID-19. According to the FA President Nick Mwendwa, the Kenyan government had, through the Ministry of Sport, provided the vaccines, and players will be issued with COVID-19 compliant certificates once they are inoculated. The Kenyan government stopped sport activities for a second time within a year last month due to a spike in coronavirus cases and restricted movement in 5 counties. To the Egyptian Premier League, where El Guna FC have announced that the first-team manager, Reda Shahate, has tested positive for COVID-19 following a round of testing ahead of the encounter against Al Masry. El Guna have been performing with a fluctuating form this season, having started a campaign with a decent run, but started falling in a series of defeats and draw caused them to slip down the table. The club announced on Thursday that Shahate tested positive for COVID-19 following the match of El Guna against El Gaish. Shahate took over the team in November 2020, of course, and handed them in 17 games, winning 6, drawing 6, and losing 5. El Guna are preparing for the upcoming league game against Al Masry on Saturday and are eyeing victory to pick themselves up again. In the women's football, the captain of Ghana's national female football team, Elizabeth Ajah, has left the U.S. National Women's Soccer League to join Swedish outfit Your Garden. Ajah was signed for North Carolina's Courage in January this year, terminated a contract, moved to Sweden just days before the U.S. football season was set to start. The 27-year-old's deal run till the end of the season, but reports say that there is no option to extend to a further year. Ajah has previously played in Sweden for Kravsveden, where she scored 9 goals in 29 games between 2016 and 2017. She will be reunited with her Ghanaian teammate, Portia Bokie. And now to the CAF Champions League. South Africa's Mamelodi Sundowns lost 2-0 to CR Belouizdad of Algeria in their upcoming, of course, group stages clash on Friday. Sundowns, who had already qualified for the quarterfinal next month, saw their 28-match unbeaten run in all competitions snapped with their defeat to CR Belouizdad, who progressed to the knockout stages. It was a sweet revenge for Belouizdad as they lost 5-1 to Sundowns in their away leg that was played in a neutral ground in Tanzania last month. For the South Africans, this defeat has also put a stain on their home record, as they now have suffered their first home defeat in the Champions League in almost 4 years. Sundowns shift their attention to the bread and butter business of their league games and the Net Cup next week, where they face Chippa United on Monday and Orlando Pirates on Thursday. Finally, to wrap up this bulletin, of course, for sports, is rugby, as where the Minnows Chile put up a spirited battle to stunt Kenya 14-12 to storm into the semi-finals of the Emirates Invitational Sevens at the Sevens Stadium in Dubai. Tony Omondi put Kenya ahead with a try, but the Chileans staged some lovely build-up to land a converted try to take the lead 7-5 at the break. The South Americans were unrelenting as they went from another touchdown, capitalizing on Kenya's sloppy defending to stretch the lead at 14-5. Alvin Otieno's try that Daniel Tibu converted was not enough to rescue the Kenyans. Captain Andrew Opede earlier shared the team's sentiment as their performance against Chile in the quarterfinals.
From the first game, we didn't perform as expected. Went down to Chile with a very close margin, with a few errors happening in our department and making us lose all the games. Losing a game that could have taken us to the main cup quarters. We ended up playing Spain, the same of another team that we had played in the same group, and we were able to get the things right and play very much better and get the win that we wanted. We will keep on building because we are using this tournament as a build-up for the bigger tournament that we have in the Olympics. So it's crucial that we are able to get ourselves tested in every department and to know what we are going to work on when we get there.
And there you have it, sport update at this time. I am Onyechi Obaro. Over now to Joe for the rest of the bulletin.
Thank you so much, Onyechi Obaro, and definitely I hope you got the best coming from the world of sports. Let's take a look at the latest story coming out from entertainment. And in entertainment, it's been a sad story all through. Latest news coming out there, the American rapper DMX has died at the age of 50. A statement from his family said the rapper, whose real name is Earl Simmons, died today at White Plains Hospital after being on life support for the past few days. DMX had a signature rasp to his voice. He delivered his lines with a desperate aggression that propelled his debut album, It's Dark and Hell is Hot, to multi-platinum level sales. He followed that up with a string of chart-topping albums that included songs like Party Up, Up in Here, Rough Riders Anthem, and many more. His rise in music also gave way to acting in movies such as Belly, Romeo Must Die, and Cradle to the Grave. Coming up next, we have weather for you. Sure looking forward to a beautiful day tomorrow, and that's all we have for you for this hour. But before we go, let's take another look at some of the major stories. Presidential polls will open in Benin Republic on Sunday. 87 inmates are back in custody after Monday's jailbreak in Owerri, southeastern Nigeria. And finally, we told you that United Nations has condemned the latest violence in Sudan's West Darfur state. Don't forget to follow us on social media. We are at News Central TV on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and of course on YouTube. You can download the News Central TV mobile app on Play Store, also on iOS. Don't forget to also watch us at Star Times Channel 274. I'm Joe Hansen. Thanking you for watching. Good night.